Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your host this week, professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff Lassiter.
What's up?
Jeff, where can they find your stuff?
JeffLassiter.com.
And of course, you can find
where all my links are.
Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast on Facebook, Critics Pod on Twitter, Critics Pod on Instagram, and of course, anywhere where you listen to podcasts, because you're probably listening to this on a podcast app. So there you go. Bob makes it sound so easy.
What about the people who are listening to it on a wind-up Victrola?
That's how they listen to the 93 podcast.
Oh, gotcha.
Every week we talk about how you can only watch the video version of that podcast by ordering it on VHS from Pueblo, Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, more on that.
Got my order in.
More on that, the 93 podcast later on in the show. But I'm myself, Chris, at Critic Sean on Twitter, or at Podcast Sean on Twitter. And of course, I'm working on my very first book. It's about horror movies in the 90s. I posted the newest entry today. I'm serializing the whole thing at horror.media. And so just pieces of it, not the entire book, but just like pieces from the book are going up there on a pretty regular basis. And I posted, I think, the 13th entry today, which is arachnophobia.
Ooh, scary.
You know what? I dismissed it a long time ago. I thought it was just sort of I didn't quite get it when I watched it as a kid. And I found I really appreciated it this time. It's a really well-directed movie. It manages to make this villain that essentially you could just step on to defeat. They do a great job of making it very scary and dangerous. And it's just through, filmmaking technique.
Yeah, I know I've seen it, but it's been probably since it came out.
Oh, wow. So all the way back in 1990?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I recommend it. I was surprised because I skipped it when I turned 30 in 2020 because I figured I just kind of dismissed it in my head. And now I'm kind of happy to be able to go back and see it and reappraise it and find a whole new appreciation for it.
Good.
Of course, it's sad. There's still no word on whatever happened to Julian Sands. He's most certainly he's in the movie, obviously, and he's most certainly dead, unfortunately. But they've not declared it officially. He went missing in the mountains earlier this year in California, and it's just bizarre that they've been completely unable to find him.
Yeah, he's friends with my friend Melanie, and she's been talking about it a lot lately, that, they can't believe that they haven't found any trace of him.
That is so weird. I mean, he's not the first person to completely go missing in the mountains, but it seems bizarre that he would be in a place where they just could not find any trace of him.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, of course, we've got movies to talk about this week, and the biggest movie, of course, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, featuring the voice of Shameik Moore as Miles Morales and Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Girl, or Gwen Stacy, picking up the story from last time, where they're apart now as friends. They're each back in their own universe, but they find a way eventually to jump back from universe to universe via this new character called The Spot, played by Jason Schwartzman, who is able to cross through universes via these various different spots all over his body. He's a pretty interesting villain and a very creative villain for this movie. But everything about this movie is super creative. It's just such a smartly made movie with the multiple different art styles, and I'll have you speak to that, Jeff. You know that stuff way better than I do, but the art styles in this are just, each switch is so seamless, and yet it's so significantly different from each universe. It's so cleverly pulled off. The jokes are great. The various different spider people are fantastic. Big shout out to Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk, which I think is the best new invention for this franchise. He was terrific in this movie. I absolutely adored that character. I don't know what his origins or the comics are. I just know that he wasn't in the first Spider-Verse movie. So that's the only way. I don't know much about. I know a lot about Spider-Man, but only in the movies. I don't know anything about Spider comics.
Yeah.
Spider-Punk could be this historic character, and I would have no idea. But that goes for most of the Spider people. Spider-Pig, who is kind of barely in this one, not really at all in this one. I wanted to see Spider-Man Noir again, Nicolas Cage, but obviously he's not really in this. But maybe in the next movie, hopefully, we do glimpse them near the end, which is nice. Really clever pieces of storytelling. I actually wasn't aware that this is seemingly like a Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. I didn't know going in. I assumed they would be making more of these, but when it ended, I was like, really? That's where? Oh, wow. And that's the one thing that I've got a problem with, Jeff, is that I do think the movie does overstay its welcome just a little bit. It kind of repeats a couple of points a little bit. Maybe there's one too many chase scenes by the end. I don't think this is a movie that necessarily needs to be close to 2.5 hours long, but it's so satisfying and so beautiful, and the characters are so great that I didn't mind it. I began to notice it toward the end.
Yeah, same here. It was kind of like they were. It felt to me like they knew they were going to have to do a part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they wanted to, hit a runtime, and they were like, "Yeah, we can make it 2.5 hours." And they just kind of stretched some of the fight scenes and the chases out. And there were a couple almost false climaxes to it, where this is what I knew going in that after it was released, I knew that it was going to be part 1 of 2, and I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be where this is going to be where and I kept thinking that, and I was like, wow, it really the end kind of dragged for me, if I'm being honest. I mean, it was gorgeous, and like you said, the art styles in it were just fabulous, but towards the end I started to get a little bit, like I checked my watch a couple times, and I'm like, is there really a half an hour left?
Mm-hmm.
Because it had repeated those beats a few times. Starting in about the middle is where I started to notice that, like, oh wait, that was kind of a repeated leitmotif, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I started to feel it about the when it got to they're in the Spider-Verse and they're having the chase scene on the train. Where this train that goes straight up in the air. They're having a fight scene on top of that, and I started to feel like this one was going on. That especially was going on just a little bit too long. I also didn't quite know what Miles's plan was when he got into that, and then of course that's not even the end game, because he's got to get off of there and then go get himself in the machine to send him back to his own universe. So there was there's a bit of confusion, I guess, in that for me. Why that train sequence had to be as long as it was, and again, these are minor flaws. These are nitpicks as far as I'm concerned, because the movie is incredibly overall. I think it's incredibly satisfying. But I did kind of scratch my head a little bit at the introduction at the end of these characters, the seemingly new character at the end, because he's introduced so late. You're like, is the movie starting a third act now? Are we going into is there another like half an hour to an hour of this? Because there's this whole new thread that starts with Miles going back to not to his universe, but to a universe where the spider that bit him was from. And we find out some things about that universe's Miles Morales that are very interesting. And I was really impressed by that, but at the same time, like it's the start of an entirely new movie.
Yeah, I felt like it just seemed a little disjointed for me. I was kind of when he came to the room and it was much darker, and he kept talking to his mom. I was like, is this a separate universe? Have we jumped to a different? And then it was, and it was like, okay. And I think you weren't supposed to believe it until they showed the mural of his father, who had been killed, as opposed to his uncle. And by then I was like, well, we all know that it's a separate, it's different. So I'm sure they're setting that up for the next one, and that'll have a big impact, I hope.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting too to see how Miles can get back to his own his own universe. Like
Yeah.
how they manage that for him is it's a kind of an interesting idea. But there's so many interesting ideas in this. I loved Haley Steinfeld as Spider Girl, Gwen Stacy. Her thing with her dad was very moving and very emotional, and really used incredibly well in terms of how they're playing out this plot, where essentially Miles makes the decision like, hey, the universe is not set. These canon events, as they call them, don't have to happen in order to make Spider-Man a hero. And that's what sort of Oscar Isaac's character believes, is that these things have to happen, that, Uncle Ben's death and the death of, a father has to happen in order to make Spider-Man who he is. And Miles is out to disprove that idea. And the way they use Gwen to reflect that is very smart. It's just an incredibly well put together script.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, like, I loved the various different inventions of other spider people, like the combination of Manhattan and Mumbai for the Indian Spider-Man is just such a wonderful invention. The art style of that was spectacular. The use of color is so incredible. Great performance as well by that young actor delivering the voice of that spider character.
Sony.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, he was in Deadpool 2. Unfortunately, Office Christmas Party.
He's also in a wonderful pandemic movie called 7 Days that I highly recommend people check out. That was a very good movie. What did you think of that?
I heard his voice and I was like, wait a minute, is that? Oh, I think that's Karen Sony. So,
what did you think of that sequence?
That was probably my favorite part. Just the artwork in it was phenomenal. And I mean, I watched the last one the night before, and I kept thinking, God, I forgot, until you're watching it, you forget how great the artwork and the style is and the textures and all that. And there were a couple times, and especially towards the end of this one, that I was like, okay, it was just it was a little esoteric. Like when Gwen came back to her father's apartment, and that took me out a little bit because I was just staring at the artwork on it. And I realized that, I'm an artist, so that's something I pay attention to more than some people might. But, it was just, it was a lot at some points, and to the point where I thought maybe it was distracting a little from the story. Overall, no. I mean, overall, it's amazing, but it's, there were a couple times towards the end of this one that I thought, okay, they're showcasing the art, and while I love that, I think we could also, get on with it.
I loved the spot. Jason Schwartzman does a great job. He's a functional character more than a character in and of itself. He functions to get people where they need to go, and provide provide essentially the face of a villain. Even though essentially Oscar Isaac's character kind of fills in as the main villain in a way, although he's a villain with some justification. He's somebody who has seen the pain that Spider-Man goes through to become a hero, and he feels like he just has this hardened view of how the multiverse works and how these canon events work. And so he's a very justified villain, but he's only the villain because he's in opposition to Miles, who is our main character who we care about. But the way they use the spot, though, is he's very funny. He's very lively. I loved that he visited the live action universe of the Venom characters. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
That was a really terrific one. The use of live action characters, like there's an appearance by Donald Glover in this that is fantastic. The invention of they used the Vulture, but not the Michael Keaton Vulture, but a Vulture from like a I don't know, it's the Renaissance version of it, which is a terrific one. And that art style clashing with the art style of Gwen's universe was terrific. Such a wonderful use of of pieces of art opposite each other. Spider Punk is another great example of that. The way his art style stands apart from everybody else's.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the fact that they had him made out of his own, like the cut up letters and words and newspapers and things like that. That, but and he was just walking around like that when everybody was in their own style. That was pretty cool. I liked the fact that and when Gwen used his bracelet to get to the other dimensions, his portal was like him. And that's when I noticed that everybody's portal was in their own style.
That was very
that was
cool.
Really cool.
That was that's a lovely detail too. That's a really great piece of detail, and I just adore that Spider-Punk style. Is that a comic book character? Do they have their own Spider-Punk?
I'm the Spider-Man that I know is from TV when I was little and the movies. So.
The same. I've never read Spider-Man comic books. I watched the Spider-Man cartoon as a kid. I loved Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 from Sam Raimi. I even liked the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't hate Spider-Man 3.
Now they had a detail that I saw in the trailer, and I didn't see that particular shot in the trailer, but I saw him in another one. They had Baghead Spidey. Are you familiar with that?
No, what's that?
Well, Spider-Man often meets up and hooks up with the Fantastic Four in the comics. I do know a little bit. I know mostly Fantastic Four stuff. But at one point, his suit is ruined, and so he has to get home, and he doesn't want anybody to know who he is. So they put him in one of Johnny Storm's Fantastic Four outfits, and he's got a paper bag over his head. I actually have the action figure.
Really?
The Baghead Spidey, yeah, I went for a lot of money for a while. But it's one of the only Marvel Universe character figures that I still have because I thought it was so funny and so cool. But yeah, Baghead Spidey was actually in there.
That's pretty cool. I like that. I was looking for Turkish Spider-Man. They say Turkey makes their own knockoffs of everything because they don't care about copyright laws, and they made a Turkish Spider-Man, and there was a rumor that they were going to try and use that character to make him part of the Spider-Verse canon, which I thought was very cool. Although I don't think they did it, but it would have been very funny to see because it's a very funny looking character. There's so many great variations that you do see in this.
Yeah. It's funny that you're talking about the bootleg Turkey stuff because there was a Star Wars figure that I'm hoping that they'll just kind of like Hasbro will make it just to kind of drop the bottom out of the resellers market. But it was the Uze Blue Stars, and it's a snowtrooper figure from the 80s, but it's blue with I think a red gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love their bootlegs. They're some of their best bootlegs out there.
That's cool. Andy Samberg is in this movie. He plays Ben Reilly, who I'm familiar with because I do watch this comic book review show on YouTube. There's this very funny guy named Linkara who does comic book reviews, and so I'll watch some of his stuff, and he's talked a lot about this Ben Reilly character, who's this like emo Spider-Man, and having the emo Spider-Man played by Andy Samberg doing this big, broad, dramatic thing that he's doing is very funny. It's a great piece of comic relief.
Yeah, there are so many people in this movie that I just couldn't keep track of them all. I recognized some voices, and then I was like, I got up to go to the bathroom halfway through because it is a long movie, guys. And I pulled out my phone and was like trying to look through all the voices, and I still didn't get them. So,
yeah, it's a terrific movie. This is really one of the best movies of the year. It's way up there for me. Even as long as it is, even as somewhat disjointed as it is, it's so much fun and so gorgeous to look at, and so incredibly inventive and fun that it's just an undeniable movie.
And I gotta say this, like the last one of these and this one are more human than a lot of the DC movies. These two animated films have more humanity than a lot of the, quote unquote DCU and some of the Marvel ones. Let's be realistic.
Sure.
I like how they did do a little bit of a dunk on Multiverse of Madness. So, I mean, it's Lord and Miller, so they're having their fun. I think they fit so much better into the tone of this movie than they would like if their solo had gone forward. I think that I think their sensibility is much better suited to something like this than a legacy character like Han Solo that is played by one of the biggest icons ever to grace the silver screen. This they can do anything with. So
yeah, I think they can't be limited by live action. I think they work very, very well in the animated realm for sure. Not that they can't write anything. I think they could probably write anything, but they've had their best runs have definitely been animated films. And the Lego movies are very funny. At least, certainly the first one is a very funny movie. And they're so good in these two movies, it not getting in the way of allowing Miles to be real and have some dramatic heft. They're good at dropping in elements of pathos. The dynamic between Miles and his dad is really terrific. Between Gwen and her dad, between Miles and his mom, those are relationships that have a lot of weight.
I was talking to a friend of mine after about the movie, and he was like, I kept thinking that she was going to ask him if he was gay because he was like, well, I want to tell you something and I don't know how to tell you. And I kept thinking that she was going to say, Miles, if you're gay, it's fine. And then everybody's head would have exploded. But talking about being gay, moms always know. Mothers always know. She knows he's Spider-Man or something, something
right.
like that. She probably saw the webs all over his room and thought it was something else, but call back to the James Cameron original idea for Spider-Man.
Yeah, no.
Do he was supposed to like go to bed that night and wake up and his room would have been covered in spider webs. And it was supposed to look like cum.
So glad that never happened.
Yeah, me too. James Cameron ruins everything. I'm kidding.
A trans person I follow on Twitter pointed something out that I thought was very interesting, that when Gwen goes to leave her universe, her portal, it has a trans flag, essentially, like the trans flag colors behind it, which I thought was a really neat detail.
Well, there's been discourse on the interwebs since the other day that, is she trans? Is she not trans? And then Richard Newman made the point that she's whatever you want her to be. And that's the thing is like, we're going to get into this space where, especially with the way things are going, because it's Pride Month, where everybody who wants her to be is going to just automatically call her that, whether she is or not. And all the knuckle dragging chuds, sorry if you're a knuckle dragging chud and you're listening right now, are going to be like, no, she can't be. That's Gwen Stacy's not trans. Although they'd use worse language, but and I missed that in the movie. I didn't even think about it, but then as I was thinking about it, like the scene later that I was talking about, where it was a little like the artwork was so overblown. She's in a white suit and it's pink in the background and then blue highlights. And I was like, well, maybe. I mean, it doesn't matter. It makes absolutely no difference whether she is or not. And that's the point, I think. Well, the fact that they're not calling her out as trans or not trans.
To your point,
why?
To your point is that it's intended to be inclusive, I think, and not so much definitive. It's inviting. to anybody who wants to be part of that.
Well, and movies are subjective. You know, you get something different out of a Friday the 13th movie than I do.
Yeah.
And you get something different out of like Trick or Treat than I do. Or, that I don't care if she is, but if somebody does care and they think she is, good.
Yeah.
Good for them. So,
and you're free to see it however you want to see it. If you don't want to read into it any further, you don't have to. No one's thrusting any narratives in your face. Yeah. Just experience art as you experience it.
Their favorite phrase is shoving it down our throats. They only say that because they want stuff shoved down their throats. I'm sorry. Closet cases. But no, I didn't even think about that until I saw it on Twitter this morning. It never even hit me. But straight cis is the default. So,
I mean, I was, it's pretty clear that like Miles has a crush on Gwen, regardless of who she is, and he seems to be having those feelings just basically based on the person that she is.
Right, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. And again, interpret it however you want. The point is just everybody has their own Spider-Man, and that's really just another wonderful idea about the Spider-Verse, is that there is going to be a universe where Spider-Man is trans, and there's going to be a Spider-Man that's gay, and there's going to be they're all out there in the multiverse. They all exist, whether you like it or not.
My favorite thing about the multiverse is that if the multiverse is real, that means that somewhere in one of the universes, The Office is a true story. And those people exist.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Anything else you want to say about Across the Spider-Verse?
Really looking forward to the next one. And I'm glad it's not going to be 5 years.
Oh, how long? Do you have any idea when it's going to be? I haven't heard.
It's January of next year, or March of next year, I think.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. It's a good turnaround.
I mean, they knew that it was going to be 2 parts. They didn't tell anybody. This weekend was the first I heard that it was going to be 2 parts. So
same, yeah.
I don't think they even, that was ever a plan. I think they just had so much in this movie that they were like, well, let's do it.
They did a good job of keeping it under wraps.
Yeah.
And it didn't hurt the experience that they're doing it that way either. Because I don't think you could hurt this experience. It's just so good. All right. On the opposite end of good, The Boogeyman is out this weekend, starring
come on,
Chris Messina and Sophie Thatcher in an incredibly generic movie about the Boogeyman, I guess, sort of, kind of. The Boogeyman can really be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't really have to have any kind of specificity. And really, truly, like the actual Boogeyman of lore is just basically whatever a child fears is the Boogeyman. So that does leave it open to any kind of interpretation. I just wish this movie had a specific sort of, any kind of interpretation of what their version of the Boogeyman is supposed to be. 2 young girls have lost their mother. Their father, played by Chris Messina, is distant and not wanting to talk about his feelings with his kids, kind of pawning them off on a psychiatrist who tries to help them. He gets visited by this guy, played by David Dastmalchian, who is essentially is accused of having killed his kids, but in reality it was this entity that came from somewhere that murders your children when you're not looking or not paying close enough attention. And it follows him where he goes. When he dies, it stays with the characters and Chris Messina's family, and it starts to menace them. And the movie is very dark, and then there are jump scares, and then it's over. I did not care for this film.
So I heard bad things about it before I went in. And so I have a friend who, well, he's not even a friend. He's a Facebook and Instagram acquaintance.
Mm-hmm.
We've never met in real life, but we both like horror movies and whatever. And he sucks every horror movie's dick to the point where I can't trust his judgment on something.
Mm-hmm.
He said that this was terrible. It was the worst movie he's ever seen. And I'm like, okay, it's probably halfway decent. But going into it and hearing him, go off on it and how he hated it so much, I was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't as bad as I expected. It wasn't great.
I certainly,
however,
I would never say this is the worst movie. Like, this is not. It's more along the lines for me of a mundane movie. It's a very average movie because I feel like I've seen this so many times. I think every other movie is about a little girl who gets menaced by some kind of monster. The Dybbuk or the boogeyman or the just any type of curse you can attach. And they're always going after teenage girls and attaching themselves, and they have to fight on their own against them. That seems to be the premise of every horror movie the past 10 years.
Well, that's because according to the patriarchy, women are vulnerable at all times to everybody, especially demons that live in their closets. But they are the only ones who can defeat them. They pick their strength and they defeat the demon. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Does it bother you that all demons live in closets?
Well, having seen the discourse on Twitter and Facebook about Pride, mm-hmm. We know all the demons are in the closet.
I think my favorite thing about the entirety of this movie was the moonball light. That was the best thing about the movie for me. The only thing I kind of want one of those. I don't know. It's a very cool invention that for a horror movie for a little kid to have, and to roll it under the bed and it reveals the monster or whatnot. I didn't particularly care for the monster. It wasn't particularly interesting, but.
Well, you couldn't see it.
Yeah, you can kind of make it out, but it's. Chris Messina is an incredibly boring actor. He's an incredibly boring presence in this movie. I was really hoping that they would introduce, a much more interesting actor into the movie. Sophie Thatcher's great. Don't get me wrong, but the character who plays David Dastmalchian's wife, who's also gone insane and is fighting the monster at her house. I was kind of hoping that maybe they'd get a really good character actress to play her, and I've nothing against that actress. I just don't know who she is, and she didn't leave much of an impression.
I have to look her up now because I was watching it and I was like, God, who is that? Who is that? And then it hit me. I was like, is that Terry Polo?
Is it?
Remember Terry Polo?
It's been a while since I've seen Terry Polo in anything. I like her, but I didn't. If that was her, I didn't recognize her.
Yeah, I'm just like, no, that's Marin Ireland. Huh.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Marin Ireland.
Oh, she was in Hell or High Water.
That's a great movie.
She was on Homeland.
Never saw that show.
Oh, okay. I mean, I know I've seen her and stuff. She's on the Umbrella Academy. Why the Last Man? Did you see that?
No.
What else? The Irishman.
Yeah, just not familiar with her work. She didn't, and again, wasn't bad. She just didn't really leave much of an impression on me in terms of the way that character is portrayed in the film. They're not given much in terms of exposition or introduction, just sort of shooting guns over her head, and she's just crazy from the first moment you meet her, and then you don't really get much beyond that. Like I said, it is kind of true to the concept of the boogeyman, and that the boogeyman of lore is just what a child is afraid of. Whatever a child is afraid of, that's the boogeyman, and so that kind of is fitting of this movie because it doesn't necessarily have any kind of specificity in the villain. It's just whatever a child is afraid of. It's the intention is to, I guess, make it about grief and loss and dealing with, the loss of a loved one, and the the emptiness that a child feels, the fear that they feel is supposed to be represented here. And I guess that's sort of there, but not really in any kind of depth. It's implied, I guess, but it's not really well explored.
Yeah, I think that, like I from the trailer, I thought that Vivian Lyra Blair was going to have a much bigger, she was going to be the protagonist, honestly. And I think they used her because she was young Leia Organa and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series. I thought she was good, but she didn't have as much spunk as I expected her to have from watching her on Kenobi.
No, because the character is underwritten like every one of these characters. She's written to be just like every other little kid in one of these movies.
Yeah, and the Chris Messina character, he's fine in everything. Like, he's fine in the Mindy Project. But I just, God, he is a psychologist and he's making all the wrong choices.
Yeah,
and I really, quite honestly, expected Lisa Gay Hamilton, who played the other therapist. I really expected her to call him out on it, but.
And again, hers is just another underwritten, unimpressive role. I mean, she's a very good actress, and I barely noticed her.
Yeah, I saw her, and I was like, I love her, and then she didn't really do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is the hallmark of this movie, is that a lot of people get introduced. David Dastmalchian, he's an incredibly a talented guy who tends to make an impression when he's in the movies, and his use here is very unimpressive and unimportant.
He is usually such a good actor, and he picks, some really good projects. In the Suicide Squad, I thought he was the best part of that.
He was great in Boston Strangler. Like he killed that performance. Yeah. He was awesome in that.
But the original story is basically, it's just him telling the story of how each of his kids died to the therapist, that ends up being played by Chris Messina here. But I mean, even if I think that would have been just as good. I know that it's a one room where he's just talking, but they could have done it in flashbacks and things, and I think that would have been, probably better than what we got.
I think they weren't particularly interested in fleshing out the boogeyman and what he was all about, because they didn't really have it. They didn't really have the concept down. They really didn't know what their villain was or what their villain was capable of. They just wanted a lot of dark rooms that they could roll tiny lights into, and dark rooms makes it cheap. You can cheap out on every aspect of the filmmaking if you make the room dark enough, and that's pretty much what they did with this. Is just, it's dark rooms with little light, and then
I will say there were a couple of those jump scares were super effective, because I did jump when she rolled that ball underneath the bed, and even though I knew it was coming from the trailer, when it got there, and they held on it for just like a half a second longer than in the trailer, and I did jump. So
there's something. Yeah, but overall, I just think this is an incredibly mundane and entirely forgettable. Like, I was writing my review, and I was just desperately trying to recall the movie. Because it's so inconsequential that I just, like, details just started to slip away from me. I had to, like, refer to Wikipedia a couple times going, what happened here? Oh, yeah, that, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that's not me. That's just the movie not being interesting enough for me to care.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, it sure was a step up competence-wise from our classic. Can we get that out of the way, please?
Let's talk about The Boogeyman 1980, directed by Yuli Lamel. And you hated this. I'm surprised. I thought you might have seen this before and enjoyed it.
Okay, so when I was growing up, I'd go to the video store, either in Princeton or Leclerc, and there were, we'd go to the horror section, and there were two movies that I never bothered with.
Hmm.
This one and Tourist Trap. Now, I saw Tourist Trap much later, probably 5, 6 years ago, finally. I was working at Best Buy and I used my discount and I was before I quit and I was buying up as many Blu-rays as I could and I like, oh what the hell. After my discount, Tourist Trap's only $10. How bad could it be? Amazing. We have to talk about that movie sometime.
Okay.
The other one was The Boogeyman. And I don't think I was wrong for not picking this one up before.
So the story starts with two kids are watching their mom and her lover essentially have sex in their living room. They're watching through a window from the porch, and they get caught doing it. And mom allows her lover to punish the boy by tying him to the bed. The little girl, the little sister, who's like 3, gets a giant knife, and I actually thought this opening was pretty effective. With the shots of the knife and the little girl and what's she gonna do, and then I like the first person perspective of the kid walking down the hall and going to stab the lover, which I mean he stabs him so lightly. There's no possible way that he actually harmed him.
Yeah.
He barely got through like the t-shirt with that stab, but nevertheless. I also like the following scene of the next day at the church. They're now grown up characters, and he does this thing where he takes the camera into the church and pans it around and shows the the priest, and then he takes it down the line and stops on these two characters and visually marries the little kids to these two characters. And I thought that was actually kind of skillful in terms of just very basic filmmaking. From there, it does fall apart. Just like everything, because again, nobody seems to know what the boogeyman is or how to, like, nobody fleshes out the concept of the boogeyman and what the boogeyman is supposed to do. This boogeyman is the lover, I guess, who was murdered, and he's in a magic mirror that can go. It takes him wherever the mirror goes, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, and they call it out so obviously. I hear if you break a mirror, it releases everything that mirror has ever seen.
And was the mirror trapping everything before? When was this a concept?
I mean, why don't you? I mean, you could make a porn. It could just be somebody jerking off in front of the mirror. I mean, it could be everything. The possibilities are endless, unfortunately. So is this movie, even though it was only an hour and 20 minutes.
The stretches that this movie has to do to get this villain to where they're going to go. Like at one point, the little boy of the main character, he's got like a piece of the mirror stuck to his boot. And that's enough to cause people who are like 2 beaches over from him where he's fishing with his mom to just let the demon loose to kill them somehow by skewering a guy in the neck and then him skewering his girlfriend through a kiss. And then that scene just ends with them, nobody knowing that they died. Like, what the fuck was that scene?
God, so many problems with this movie. It didn't know if it wanted to be a supernatural horror movie or a slasher movie or a family drama. It was just like, come on.
But again, I liked the brother character. I thought he had a very interesting presence. I thought for sure that he was
didn't talk.
Yeah, but he had a great look though in terms of his presence and his look. He looked dangerous. He looked troubled. I thought, okay, he's going to be the villain. Like he's going to they're going to ask him to go back and see his mom, which he doesn't want to do, and that's going to cause him to snap, and he's going to start killing people. And then no, they just they went with this fucking magic mirror bullshit.
Yeah,
I thought that would have been more effective. That guy had a great presence. He you put him with pair him with that camera perspective that they do, which again is so weirdly used. Like first of all, the demon has no presence. I know we're supposed to see in our minds, I guess, that the demon is
it
the lover with
like
the
Darth Vader with asthma.
There is that. That is the only way you really know that the camera is in the perspective of the demon, or whatever the fuck this is that he does have this, like, he's breathing through this stocking over his head, which is a weird, bizarre motif to begin with. Like, what was sexy time? Let me put this pantyhose over your head. And then he just leaves on until he gets stabbed to death. But that then, I guess, is supposed to become the demon character that we now never see, like, to the point where, like, he doesn't appear again. Aside from appearing in the mirror briefly, we don't see him again. And then randomly, the demon is defeated because they put the mirror in water? What the fuck? I guess, yeah.
So then at the end, when the piece of mirror falls off the kid's shoe, what happens when the groundskeepers come and, like, water the lawn?
It's just
Does that kill the demon?
The sequel never happened, so maybe that's how they finished it.
No, there were 2 sequels.
Oh, there were? One. Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I've never seen them. I didn't know anything about it until tonight when I was watching it and looking through IMDb, but apparently there's 2 sequels.
Oh, wow. Who knew?
I mean, I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine that the director and the lead actress who he's married to and her brother, who plays her brother in the movie, wrote another one of these. So I'm sure it's probably a name only.
Yeah. I imagine it all starts at the graveyard. Somebody steps on the mirror and they carry it with them to their house.
Yeah.
Or in the classic tradition of horror movie sequels of the 80s, it's just the person who wrote the sequels never saw the original and just kind of came up with his own idea based off of what he was told about the previous movie.
Or it was a spec script and they just put the name Boogeyman on it, like they did with a bunch of the Hellraiser movies, and Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Yeah. Which actually sounds way more entertaining than what this was.
Well, have you seen Hello Mary Lou?
I do have a sort of camp appreciation for that movie, yes.
Yeah. That is my friend Joe's favorite movie of all time.
It's very funny.
He collects stuff from it. He's got a horse head from the hobby horse. I did a poster of it that's available on my Etsy, link in my bio. I did that for him. He's got a 35 millimeter print of the movie. He really loves that movie.
Wow.
He has no taste. But, I'm just kidding. They say every lid has a pot. So I'm sure there's some Boogeyman stands out there.
Good luck to whoever you are. Go with God and enjoy your movie. Well, this week on the 1993 podcast, we watched the Michael J. Fox movie Life with Mikey, because did you know that Super Mario Brothers isn't available? It's not available to stream. The Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo version is gone. It's lost media now, apparently. If you have a copy, be sure to hang on to it, because you can't stream it right now.
Interesting.
So we watched Life with Mikey, which is a movie about Michael J. Fox playing an agent at a child talent agency. He's also a former child star, and a fuck up whose brother, Nathan Lane, carries him essentially at the job, and he kind of gets by, doing the odd bit of media for his childhood persona. And he meets this little girl in the street and sees her picking pockets, and then when she gets caught, she's doing this amazing monologue, lying her way out of it. And he says, like, this girl could be an amazing actress. He gets her a job as a commercial spokesperson, and things move on from there. They develop a sort of a father-daughter relationship, but her real father is also still around somewhere and providing kind of the motivation for the third act. This movie is a complete mess. It is an absolute mess. Like, There's almost no conflict in the movie whatsoever. The everything that Michael J. Fox wants to happen happens. Like he meets this little girl, and they have a tension between them, but he immediately gets her a job without an appointment. Just gets her the biggest possible job in acting, in terms of commercial acting. They there's nothing bad ever seems to happen. Every obstacle is overcome so easily. At the same time, though, Michael J. Fox is so charming that even in a movie this bad, he's so good that the movie feels breezy, light, and even occasionally quite funny, just because he's so good. Yeah, we actually, Amy and MJ and I actually came away kind of liking this movie, even as we spend a good hour talking about how terrible it is. Which hopefully will be on the podcast feed later on this week. Ever heard of it?
No,
Never? Really? It's one of Michael J. Fox's last leading man performances.
I mean, there's every possibility that I heard about it when it came out, but I was never a huge Michael J. Fox stan, so...
I've always been a fan, although, since obviously because of Back to the Future and even a little bit of Family Ties. I didn't love Family Ties, but I always kind of liked him on Family Ties. And when he got Back to the Future, and of course, Back to the Future is iconic. Love that movie. Love that franchise. And I think that's part of the reason why I find him just charming in everything that he does. All right.
Yeah, I like him.
He's really great. Next week on the 93 show, we're going to be watching Jurassic Park, which MJ has never seen. And Amy claims to hate.
Amy hates everything.
Yeah. Jurassic Park is 30 years old next week.
God.
I know, right?
I mean, that was one of those movies where I was fully aware of like the directionless life I was going to lead. So that was a big movie. I think I saw that 3 times in the theater.
Yeah, so. I really enjoyed it at the time, and I've always enjoyed watching Jurassic Park back again because it is just so good. More on that next week.
That is one of those movies that it's a comfort movie. I can put it on anytime. Sometimes I'll fall asleep to it. Sometimes I'll sit and watch it. So.
Well, we're going to have to build some kind of show next week because aside from Jurassic Park, all we have is the fucking Transformers movie. That is it.
Well, let's talk about something else then next week because I am not going to sit through a fucking Transformers marathon. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy.
I barely even like Anthony Ramos anymore. After listening to him on Mark Maron.
Oh yeah, is he not a good person?
No, he's fine. He's just, I don't know. I was like, yeah, dude, it's too early for this. I listened to it first thing this morning. I'm like, yeah, it's too early for this shit. And Mark Maron sometimes kind of molds to whoever he's talking to.
Yeah.
So I have no desire to see any of the Transformers films. When I worked at Best Buy in New Jersey and New York, we would have that we'd have the first one, the Blu-ray on some of our higher end TVs so you could see the clarity and everything. And you can't make out anything that the robots are doing when they're fighting each other. So I gave up and I'm like, I have no desire. I didn't like the toys when I was a kid. I didn't like the toys when they came out again.
I loved the toys as a kid. I was a huge Transformers cartoon fan. The movies are absolute trash. I mean, what you said about the absolutely, you can't make out any of the action of these movies.
Yeah.
It is just, but when you're watching it in a movie theater, it is torture. It is just physical pain. The clanging and the banging and the loud. I mean, they turn up the noise so much. The last one, I had headphones on. Like I couldn't have the full force noise of that going on in my head. The humor is so, it is so dumb. It is sub-grade school dumb in these movies. Borderline, like Adam Sandler kind of looks sideways at how dumb the Transformers movies are, to the point where like the Transformers movies even steal one of his jokes about dogs having sex, like that, which is Adam Sandler's favorite joke in the world, is to show a dog with giant balls, or a dog trying to have sex with a dog that is too big for it, or anything else, something like that. And they stole that and put that in the first Transformers movie.
Oh,
yeah, it's great. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Does it make you want to see a Transformers movie?
Great.
Yeah. I'm so lucky I get paid to do this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you want to pay me to go see it, I'll go see it. But that when you guys asked me to be part of this show, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I get to see all the movies. Then I realized I had to pay for all the movies. B, I had to see shit that I would not ever watch in a million years.
And so Jeff has officially quit the show.
Yeah. When does Indiana Jones come out?
Oh God, I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's the end of the month.
We've got this one, and then Flash is next. The week after that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, since we know that Michael Keaton's Batman is returning, maybe we should just talk about the first two Batman movies.
Yeah, that's certainly a thing.
Because I could talk about Selena Kyle all day.
All right, we'll talk more about that and come up with a show for next week that isn't entirely Transformers, obviously, because I'm going to be the only one who suffers it. You want to do a little flick chart?
Yeah.
All right.
We could talk about the movie Trans America instead. Talk about trans movies.
Oh, the truly mass appeal.
Yeah, this show would hemorrhage listeners.
Oh, all right. Always or Soap Dish?
Soap Dish.
Yeah. Although Always isn't terrible.
No, it's fine. Soap Dish, though, I mean, some of the lines I still quote to this day. A turban. What am I, Gloria fucking Swanson? Classic.
Judas and the Black Messiah or Rosemary's Baby?
Ooh. Rosemary's Baby.
I'm going Judas, and so I got to flip the coin here and make a choice. And it's Rosemary's Baby.
Yes. That movie is it's
a great movie. I just prefer the other movie. All right, let's see here. Ed Wood or Starman?
Probably I would say Starman, but Ed Wood is a lot of fun and has a great cast, and I would probably watch that first. So yeah, Ed Wood.
Ed Wood, absolutely, yeah. That's where I'm going. Paranormal Activity 2 or Basic Instinct 2?
I did not see Paranormal Activity 2 because the first one was so incredibly boring to me. So I would say Basic Instinct 2.
No, it's Paranormal Activity 2. Basic Instinct 2 is unwatchable. I'll watch 15 Paranormal Activities before I watch Basic Instinct 2 again.
Well, have I got some news for you? You can watch 15 Paranormal Activity movies.
Again, I would do that before I would ever watch a Basic Instinct 2. Myself and a local critic, a friend of ours, actually, Linda Cook, watched that together at a critic screening, and just at a certain point, she's just looking at the screen going, yeah, that's a really nice lamp. Like, yeah, that is a nice lamp.
What's funny is I do that even if I'm into a movie because I'm so obsessed with like mid-century modern. The lamp that your sister gave me that's in my living room. I see that in movies and I'm like, oh God, I want another one so bad. So I can't falter for that.
No, I wasn't faulting you. Like, that was literally more entertaining than anything in the movie. So Paranormal Activity 2 wins. Jonah Hex or Unfaithful?
Unfaithful is Diane Lane.
Yes, Richard Gere and some hot guy.
I'll pick that.
Yeah, same. Jonah Hex is it's terrible.
I
Journey.
used to read the Jonah Hex comics when I was a kid.
Oh, really? Were they any good?
Well, my grandpa in Missouri had them, and so, oh, you like the comic books? Let's read this. And I was scared because I was like 5.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was never a fan. And the movie. Fun fact about the movie: they slowed down the credits to make the runtime.
Seriously?
I'm not gonna make you watch it to figure this out, but it's out there. Yeah, they slowed down the credits because it only ends up being like an hour and like 22 minutes or something, and like 10 minutes of that is credits.
Wow.
Something incredibly stupid like that. So
yeah, I think the Paranormal Activity movies did that too.
Did they?
I think so. Genuinely. Another 48 Hours or Catwoman?
Catwoman.
I agree. I love laughing at Catwoman. It's so bad. And it's actually so bad it's fun to watch.
That movie was so much fun to watch during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I watched it with some friends on Zoom. And I wish we could have recorded the commentary that we were making. It was so much fun to watch, and I can't stand it.
It is so great.
I had so much fun.
I had that experience watching Exorcist 2. Exorcist 2 is so bad, and I watched it with a group of people, and we laughed so hard at that movie. It's the best. Really, really bad.
I was once possessed by a demon. Don't worry, I'm not anymore.
Oh. Are you kidding me?
No, that's one of the lines.
No, I remember. I just like can't believe Richard Burton, isn't it? Is it Richard Burton? He's so drunk. He's just so drunk the entire movie.
Well, and
it's a big, bright, like Rudolph nose.
Yeah. Oh God.
It's just so sad.
And James Earl Jones, I'm just like,
oh God,
what are you thinking?
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
It had. I will say this. It had an interesting concept. As far as like the, going back to the possessed boy who becomes a shaman and whatever. But whoa.
Defiance or Whiskey Tango Foxtrot?
I have not seen either one of those, so you'll have to pick it up.
Fair enough. Do the Right Thing or Stardust Memories?
Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing. Yeah. Hairspray 1988 or To Kill a Mockingbird?
Actually, I'm going to say Hairspray, and that is actually coming back to theaters next week.
Wow, I hadn't heard.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. Do a John Waters show.
Oh, we've never done a John Waters show.
I mean,
we'll see.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm going to kill a Mockingbird, and let's see what the coin says. It's To Kill a Mockingbird. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Good Luck Chuck or Wayne's World 2?
Good Luck Chuck.
Seriously?
No, I'm kidding.
Who the fuck votes for a Dane Cook movie? What are you doing?
I'm kidding. If it was Chuck and Buck, maybe. But
I don't think Wayne's World 2 is very good, but it's better than Good Luck Chuck.
Maybe that's what I was thinking. We'll pick Wayne's World 2.
Life or American Graffiti? Life is with Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Did I see that? I don't think I saw that.
No, American Graffiti would win anyway.
Yeah, I would pick that probably anyway.
Father of the Bride or Margot at the Wedding?
Ooh, weddings. Seems to be a theme. I had my cousin and a couple of my friends got married last weekend.
Huh.
Is that the original Father of the Bride or the
1991? Yeah.
Steve Martin.
Really? Well, I mean, I don't like Margot at the Wedding very much, but I think it's far more interesting than Father of the Bride. I really hated Father of the Bride.
I don't. It's just so like depressing.
Oh, it is. Margot at the Wedding is absolutely depressing. It really is. It's oppressive. There's no doubt about it. Father of the Bride wins. Let's see. I've never seen Sappho. I don't know what that is. I know what Sappho means, but I've never seen that
Yeah.
movie I've never seen a movie called Sappho.
Well, are
Let's
you
see.
in luck?
Underworld Awakening or Neil Breen's I Am Here Now.
Fishing with Gandhi.
I've actually never seen I Am Here Now, but I love seeing Neil Breen pop up. Underworld wins. What in the world? All right. Meet Joe Black or The Princess and the Frog?
The Disney Princess and the Frog?
Yes.
I'll pick that.
Same.
Yeah, Joe Black is so tedious.
Oh, it is. It is. And I had to see it on the worst date of my life. Imagine being there with somebody you have totally no chemistry with, and you have to sit through a 3-hour fucking movie. Good God.
No, thank you.
The Golden Child or the First Wives Club?
First Wives Club.
Golden Child. I hate anything that Diane Keaton is in. Except
no, that was before she
movie.
Went completely off the rails, and it does have Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler. So
I just rolled my eyes through it for the most part. But you're right. I mean, it was still, she was not as terrible as she was after 2000. Yeah. The Y2K happened. It just happened to Diane Keaton's career. That's really Golden Child wins.
First Wives Club is before she started spending all her money and needed to start making paycheck movies.
Disturbing Behavior or The Jungle Book 1967?
Jungle Book.
Jungle Book. No Reservations with Aaron Eckhart and Michael Douglas's wife. Catherine Zeta-Jones. Or A Man Apart starring Vin Diesel?
No Reservations.
Yeah. The Wedding Date or The Rhythm Section? You've seen neither of these.
I know I haven't seen The Rhythm Section because I was saving it because I had the book, and then it was too low on my to be read pile, so I just gave it away.
Yeah.
So I still have not seen that one, so I haven't seen either one of them.
The Rhythm Section, just because The Wedding Date is impossible to sit through. Let's see here. Give me a movie that somebody's actually heard of. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid or Ladybugs?
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Same.
So clever.
Great movie. The Bourne Legacy or My Neighbor Totoro?
Seen neither of them. I've not seen a single Jason Bourne movie.
My Neighbor Totoro. 13 Days starring Kevin Costner or You've Got Mail?
Oh, I don't mind 13 Days, but You've Got Mail has Parker Posey in it, so we're going to pick that one.
Same. The Insider or Stealing Harvard?
The Insider, which one is that?
With Al Pacino and Russell Crowe?
Yeah, that one.
Definitely that one.
Without seeing the poster, I can't.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Black Dynamite in 2009 or What's Love Got to Do with It, the Tina Turner movie?
What's Love Got to Do with It?
Same. Yeah, I just watched a woman watch that on YouTube today for the first time, and it was I got emotional watching her watch it.
Yeah. I like Black Dynamite. I thought that was a good movie.
It really is.
What's Love Got to Do with It is just so
super
good.
Clever. Mr. Deeds 2002, the Adam Sandler version, or Leprechaun 2?
Leprechaun 2.
Same. That's how much I hate Adam Sandler. Oh, let's see here. Reign Over Me, starring Adam Sandler and Don Cheadle, or The Pink Panther 2?
Pink Panther 2.
Reign Over Me. I fucking hate the Pink Panther movies so fucking much. And I don't mind Reign Over Me. I actually kind of got a little emotional watching that movie. It's Reign Over Me.
Okay.
Okay. Your Highness with Natalie Portman, James Franco, or Hotel Rwanda with Don Cheadle.
Oh God. Do I want to roll my eyes or curl into a fetal position? Just for the simple fact that she did a movie like Your Highness, I'm picking that.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. No. Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah. Your Highness is one of the worst movies ever made. It's so terrible. And while I'd never want to see Hotel Rwanda again in my life, because it is, again, just oppressively sad, it is way better than this movie. All right, that's all we got. Jeff, any final words?
Go buy my artwork, because why should you give your hard-earned money to a big soulless corporation that only practices rainbow capitalism 1 month a year when you could give it to a real, actual, live homo?